I found out on a warm Friday night, the kind that should have felt safe. I walked into Lucas's apartment carrying a small cake because he had told me he was feeling low and missing me. My voice was light when I called out, "Babe, I'm here," but it froze in my throat when I saw him. He wasn't alone. A girl I had never seen before sat on his lap, kissing his neck like she owned him. He looked up with wide eyes. Then annoyance crossed his face, like I was the one interrupting something normal. "Elizabeth, you weren't supposed to just walk in," he said, his voice cold. I felt my chest twist. "You told me to come," I whispered. But the girl didn't even move. She laughed softly and said, "Relax, Lucas. She'll get over it." Her words hit me like a slap. I dropped the cake. The box burst open on the floor. My hands shook so hard I couldn't hold anything together. Not the cake, not myself, not us. He didn't even stand up. "Don't make a scene," he snapped. Something in me cracked, clean and sharp. That was the moment everything broke, and the moment something new began forming inside me. I walked out of the apartment without looking back. My legs felt weak, and I didn't know if I wanted to cry or scream. Cars passed me on the street, but everything sounded far away, like I was underwater. My thoughts were loud, though, too loud. How long had he been cheating? How many lies had he told? How stupid had I been? When I reached my car, I sat behind the wheel and stared at my shaking hands. I whispered to myself, "You're okay. You're okay." But I wasn't. Not even close. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Lucas. "Don't overreact." We weren't exclusive. A cold anger spread through my body. We had been together for 7 months. He met my parents. He slept in my bed 4 nights a week. He made promises. Another message. "You're too emotional. That's why I didn't tell you." That line cut deeper than anything I saw in the apartment. It wasn't just betrayal. It was dismissal. Like my hurt meant nothing. I closed my eyes and felt my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I knew I couldn't just let this break me. Something had to change. I didn't know what yet, but I knew this wound wouldn't stay quiet for long. The next morning, I woke up feeling heavy, like grief had slept on my chest. I checked my phone and saw something that twisted the knife deeper. A DM from the girl on Lucas's lap. Her name was Harper, and her profile picture showed bright red hair and a smug smile. Her message read, "Don't take it personal, sweetheart. Men like him don't stay with girls like you." Girls like me? My stomach tightened. I typed back, then erased every word. Responding would give her power. Still, her message replayed in my mind all day. I kept hearing her voice, even though I'd only heard it once, confident, sharp, mocking. By afternoon, I couldn't sit still. I grabbed my keys and drove to the gym, even though I hadn't been there in months. I needed to hit something, anything. While I punched the heavy bag, I whispered, "Girls like me?" between breaths. My arms burned, but I kept going. Sweat dripped down my face, mixing with anger. A trainer walked by and paused. "You okay?" he asked. "No," I said, my voice shaking. "But I will be." For the first time since last night, I felt something steady inside me, like the start of a backbone forming. 2 days passed, and people started telling me things I didn't want to hear. It began with my coworker, Mariah, who said she saw Lucas weeks ago at a movie theater, holding hands with a girl who wasn't me. Then my neighbor mentioned he'd seen Lucas leaving my apartment building late at night with someone else. Piece by piece, his double life was unfolding. I felt sick. How many people had known before I did? How many had watched me smile while he played me behind my back? I opened a folder on my phone where I usually kept cute pictures of us, but now all the photos felt fake. His smile looked like a mask. His arms around me felt like a trick. When I closed the folder, I whispered, I didn't deserve this. Even saying it felt strange, like I had to convince myself. That night, Lucas called me. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. He called again, then again. On the fourth call, I picked up, not out of hope, but anger. "What do you want?" I asked. "You're making this messy," he said. "Just move on." His voice was calm, almost bored. That tone, more than anything, lit a fire in my chest. I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. After that call, I opened my journal, something I hadn't touched since college. My hand trembled as I wrote one sentence. Rule number 1, never let someone rewrite my reality. Lucas wanted to paint me as crazy or overreacting, but I knew what I saw. I knew what I felt. I wasn't going to let him twist the story. Writing that rule made something shift inside me. It wasn't revenge, not yet. It was clarity, a structure, a way to pull myself out of the hole he threw me in. Later that evening, I walked to a small cafe near my apartment. I sat by the window with a hot chocolate and tried to breathe. A group of women at the next table laughed loudly, and for a moment I wished I could switch places with any of them. Anyone who wasn't hurting like me. When I looked at my reflection in the window, I barely recognized the girl staring back. She looked tired but focused, wounded but awake. I whispered, "I won't stay broken." The words steadied me. I didn't know how, but I knew I was going to rebuild myself, and he would see it. 3 days after I wrote the first rule, Harper crossed a line I didn't expect. I woke up to screenshots from 3 friends. Harper had posted a picture of Lucas kissing her cheek with the caption, "Upgrading is always worth it." And in the comments she tagged me. My stomach dropped. She wanted me to see it. She wanted an audience. She wanted to embarrass me publicly. I felt heat rush through my chest. I didn't cry this time. I clenched my jaw and said out loud, "You want a reaction? No." I refused to give her the satisfaction. Instead, I blocked her. Then I blocked Lucas. But blocking them didn't stop the hurt. I walked around the apartment like a ghost, touching the walls, the couch, the kitchen counter. Everything Lucas had once touched. Everything that still held his fingerprints. I opened the window and let in the cold air. It hit my skin and grounded me. "You're stronger than this," I whispered. That evening, I wrote a second rule in my journal. Rule number 2, never bleed for someone who enjoys watching me hurt. Writing it felt like putting a brick into a foundation I didn't know I was building. Just when I thought the drama was settling, the universe dropped another twist. My friend Jonah called me, sounding nervous. "Elizabeth, I need to tell you something about Lucas," he said. My heart thudded. "What now?" "Harper wasn't the only one," he whispered. "He's been seeing her on and off for almost a year. Before he even met you." A chill went down my spine. "A year?" "And there's more," Jonah added. "She wasn't just a random girl. She's his ex. And she's been trying to get him back. They never fully ended." My head started spinning. The cheating wasn't an accident. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a pattern. A cycle. A game he had been playing long before I stepped into his life. I sat down on my bed, gripping the blanket. "So I was... what? A filler? A distraction?" Jonah sighed. "I don't think he ever planned to choose anyone." I felt something inside me collapse. But then another part hardened. This wasn't about love. It was about control. That night, I wrote my third rule. Rule number 3, never be someone's in-between. And I meant it with every breath in my chest. For days, I tried to avoid social media, but curiosity eventually won. I checked Lucas's page and felt a wave of dread crash into me. He had posted a picture with Harper, hands intertwined, faces close. The caption said, "Finally, done with the drama." My stomach turned. Drama. That was what he called my heartbreak. As I stared at the picture, a horrible thought hit me. What if everyone believed his version? What if I became the crazy ex in people's minds? My breathing grew fast. I grabbed my phone and almost typed a long explanation, detailing everything he'd done. But I stopped. I remembered rule number 1. I wasn't going to explain myself to protect his image. Still, my emotions swirled. I walked to the bathroom, turned on the light, and looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes looked swollen. My voice trembled as I whispered, "Why wasn't I enough?" The question echoed in the room. But then, something unexpected happened. For the first time, another voice in my head whispered back, "Maybe the problem wasn't you." I wiped my eyes and took a slow breath. This wasn't over, not even close. 2 days later, when my mind was still tangled in anger and sadness, I went back to the gym. I needed a place to breathe. As I wrapped my hands for the punching bag, a tall guy walked over. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. "You've been hitting that bag like it owes you money," he said with a small smile. I gave a tired laugh. "It kind of does." He nodded toward the bag. "Mind if I teach you the right stance? You're strong, but you're losing power in your shoulder." His tone wasn't flirty. It was calm, respectful. I appreciated that. "Sure," I said. He adjusted my posture gently, without grabbing or crowding me. "There," he said. "Try now." I punched again. The bag swung harder, cleaner. I blinked in surprise. "Wow." He stepped back. "Name's Caleb. You look like you're fighting more than a bag." The words hit deeper than he knew. I swallowed and said, "Just life." He didn't ask for details. He didn't push. He just nodded, as if to say he understood more than he let on. When I left the gym, something felt different, like the universe had shifted an inch. That night, I lay in bed, thinking about Caleb. Not romantically, but curiously. It had been a long time since someone spoke to me without wanting something in return. His calmness stayed in my mind, like a warm echo. I opened my journal and wrote, Rule number 4, notice the people who treat me gently. It felt strange to write something hopeful after days of pain. But healing wasn't supposed to be neat. It was messy and slow and unexpected. As I wrote, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number appeared. "We need to talk." I froze. I knew that tone even without a name. It was Lucas. Before I could react, another message came. "It's about Harper. Call me." My heartbeat sped up. Why would he want to talk to me about her? I stared at the screen, confused and annoyed. But curiosity pushed through the anger. Something was wrong. I could feel it. I didn't call him back. Not yet. Instead, I closed the phone, turned off the light, and whispered into the darkness, "Whatever this is, I'm ready." And for the first time, since everything fell apart, I truly believed it. By morning, curiosity had eaten through every bit of resistance I had. I paced my living room for almost 10 minutes before finally pressing call. Lucas picked up on the first ring. "Elizabeth," he said, sounding breathless. "Thank God." I didn't say anything. I waited. "It's Harper," he continued. She's gone crazy. She hacked into my email, my private files. She even tried to get into my bank account." I rolled my eyes. "What does that have to do with me?" "She thinks I'm still talking to you," he said quickly. "She said you and I have something going on behind her back." A bitter laugh escaped me. "You're worried about being cheated on?" "Interesting." He groaned. "I know I messed up, but Harper's unstable. She's saying she'll ruin both of us." The way he said both made my skin crawl, like we were partners in something. "I don't owe you anything," I whispered. "I know, but just be careful," he said. "She's angry. She blamed you for everything." My breath caught. "Why me?" He hesitated. "Because she thinks I loved you." The line went silent. My heart pounded. Not from hope, but from the danger in those words. I ended the call without saying another word. My hands were shaking again, but this time the feeling wasn't heartbreak. It was awareness. Something wasn't right with Harper. By afternoon, I received a DM from a burner account. Stay away from him, or you'll regret it. The message was followed by a picture of me leaving the gym yesterday. My stomach dropped. Someone had been watching me. My breathing grew uneven. I blocked the account, but I couldn't shake the cold feeling that crawled through my spine. Harper wasn't just petty, she was obsessed. As I tried to calm myself, I remembered how she had tagged me publicly, how she sent me that message calling me sweetheart, how confident she looked sitting on Lucas's lap. This wasn't jealousy, it was obsession, trying to keep control. I whispered, "She doesn't even want him. She wants to win." The realization hit me like a slap. This whole thing wasn't about love. It was a competition she created in her own mind. And I had never agreed to play. That night, I wrote a new rule. Rule number 5. Never engage with someone who fights imaginary battles. But knowing the rule didn't stop the fear. The next day at the gym, I tried to focus, but my eyes kept flicking toward the entrance as if Harper would walk in any second. Caleb noticed right away. "You look tense," he said gently. "I'm fine," I lied. He raised an eyebrow. "That's not fine." Something in his voice made the truth slip out. I told him, not everything, but enough. The cheating, the harassment, the feeling of being watched. His jaw tightened. "That's not drama, that's unsafe." I swallowed. "I don't want to make it a big deal." "It is a big deal," he said firmly. "You can't just carry this alone." No one had said that to me in months. Caleb took a step back then, softening his tone. "Look, you don't have to tell me more. But if someone is threatening you, you need support. People who have your back, even if it's just at the gym." His words hit deeper than he probably meant them to. I nodded slowly. "Thank you." As he walked away, I felt something strange. Safety. Not from romance, from presence. Later, when I drove home, I realized something important. Lucas created chaos. Harper fed it. But Caleb brought quiet. At work the next morning, my supervisor, Mrs. Rowan, called me into her office. She closed the door gently. "You've been distracted," she said softly. I opened my mouth to apologize, but she raised a hand. "This isn't about work. A woman came here asking for you." My blood turned to ice. "What woman?" "She didn't give a name," Mrs. Rowan said. "Red hair, sharp tone. She asked what time you leave. I told her I couldn't share that." My heart hammered so hard it hurt. "Did she say anything else?" Mrs. Rowan nodded slowly. "She said you messed with the wrong relationship." I felt dizzy. "I'm so sorry. I didn't expect—" She touched my hand gently. "Elizabeth, do you feel safe?" The question made tears sting my eyes. "I don't know." "Then you take precautions," she said. "Go home early today, and let someone walk you to your car." Harper had crossed another line. Showing up at my workplace wasn't insecurity. It was escalation. During the ride home, my hands trembled around the steering wheel. I whispered, "This is getting out of control." But deep inside, something else stirred too. Resolve. Harper wasn't going to run my life. That evening, Lucas showed up at my apartment. Without warning. I saw him through the peephole, standing there like he had any right. I hesitated, then unlocked the door, but didn't let him inside. "What do you want?" I asked. He sighed dramatically. "Harper's telling people I cheated, because you seduced me." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "She's losing it," he continued. "She said you were trying to steal me on purpose, that you never cared about me." My voice shook with anger. "You lied to me for months. You used me. I cared." "You didn't." He leaned against the doorframe. "Look, Elizabeth, We had something real. You know that. Maybe I didn't handle things well, but… Stop, I snapped. Don't rewrite history just because your new girlfriend is scaring you. His face twisted in frustration. Fine. I just thought you should know she's spreading stories. And honestly, I miss you. The audacity made me laugh, loud and humorless. You miss control, Lucas, not me. His eyes flickered. He didn't deny it. He left without another word, but the moment the door shut, I felt my spine straighten. Rule number 6 wrote itself. Never trust a man who calls the damage he caused love. 2 days later, everything took a new turn. I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "You don't know the full story." My stomach flipped. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a long message from Harper's sister. She wrote that Harper had a history of obsession, jealousy, and emotional instability. She had sabotaged Lucas's past relationships too, not because she loved him, but because she couldn't handle being left behind. She wrote, "Harper thinks Lucas belongs to her, but she also thinks any girl near him is a threat. You didn't do anything wrong." My breath caught. At the bottom was another line that made my skin crawl. "She's spiraling again. Please be careful." My hands trembled as I read it. The story wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just drama. It was a pattern. A dangerous one. I sat back on my bed, heart pounding. So I wasn't the target, I whispered. I was just the placeholder. But knowing the truth didn't calm me. It made everything worse. Because if Harper had a history of this, then her next move wouldn't be small. The next day at the gym, I barely focused. My punches were sloppy, my breathing uneven. Caleb watched for a minute before walking over. "You're somewhere else," he said. I hesitated, then told him about Harper showing up at my job, about the email from her sister, about the fear crawling under my skin. Caleb listened, without interrupting. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. "Elizabeth, this isn't something you should deal with alone." "I don't want to drag anyone in," I murmured. He shook his head. "You're not dragging anyone. You're being targeted." I opened my mouth, but he continued gently. "Listen, I have a friend who works in private security. He's not a cop. He handles situations like this quietly. If you want, I can connect you." My eyes widened. "I don't know if it's that serious." He looked me straight in the eyes. "She showed up at your job. You got threats. That's serious enough." His concern wasn't dramatic. It was steady, grounded. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't actually alone. I nodded slowly. "Okay. Give me his contact." Caleb smiled softly. "Good. You don't have to be fearless, just safe." Caleb's friend, Adrian, met me at a coffee shop the next afternoon. He was tall, calm, with eyes that scanned every corner before he even sat down. "You must be Elizabeth," he said, shaking my hand firmly. "Caleb told me you might need help." I explained everything. Harper's behavior, the messages, the workplace visit. Adrian listened like someone who had heard stories worse than mine, but still took mine seriously. When I finished, he leaned back. "This isn't uncommon," he said, "but the escalation matters." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Showing up at your workplace is a big jump," he replied. "That means she's not just angry, she's fixated." A shiver ran down my spine. He continued, "I'll teach you what signs to look for. I'll also show you how to protect your online accounts and apartment. And if she shows up again, you call me immediately." I let out a shaky breath. "Why are you helping?" He smiled slightly. "Because Caleb doesn't vouch for people lightly, and because no one deserves to be scared in their own life." His words grounded me. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like prey. I felt prepared. Just when things seemed to settle, Harper showed her hand again. I came home from work and found a note slipped under my door. My heart raced as I picked it up. The handwriting was sharp, rushed. "I know you've been talking to Lucas again. Stop before I end everything for you." My voice trembled as I whispered, "Talking to him?" He came to me. The note wasn't just jealousy. It was delusion. She was creating stories in her mind and punishing me for them. I took a photo and sent it to Adrian immediately. He called within seconds. "Elizabeth, listen carefully," he said. "Pack a small bag and stay with a friend tonight. She's escalating again." My chest tightened. "Is it that bad?" "Yes. Notes at the home are personal risk level signs. Don't ignore this." I swallowed hard, grabbed my keys and drove to my coworker Mariah's apartment. As soon as she opened the door, she hugged me instantly. That night, while lying on her couch, staring at the ceiling, I whispered to myself, "This didn't start with me, but it might end with me." For the first time, the fear changed into fire. I returned to my apartment the next morning with Adrian on the phone, guiding me through checking the doors and windows. Everything looked normal. Too normal. "Stay alert," he said. "If anything feels off, leave immediately." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I set my keys on the counter, took a breath, and walked into the living room. That's when I noticed it. My framed photo on the table was turned face down. I froze. I hadn't touched that frame in weeks. My heartbeat hammered. "Adrian," I whispered. Someone was inside. Before he could answer, there was a sudden knock on my door, sharp, frantic. I jumped, my breath caught. A voice spoke from the hallway, a voice I recognized instantly. Harper. "Elizabeth, open the door!" she shouted, her tone shaking. "We need to talk." I backed away from the door, my hands trembling. Adrian's voice came through the phone like steel. "Do not open it. I'm on my way. Stay where you are." Harper pounded again, louder this time. "You ruined everything. I know what you're doing." Her voice cracked, rage mixing with something unhinged. In that moment, I realized the truth. This wasn't drama. This wasn't jealousy. This was danger. And the story was far from over. Harper kept pounding on the door, each hit making the frame shake. I pressed myself against the far wall, phone still tight in my hand. Adrian's voice stayed calm. "Don't speak. Don't move. I'm almost there." My heart raced so fast it hurt. Harper's voice cracked from the hallway. "I know you're inside, Elizabeth. Stop hiding. You're trying to take him from me." Her words were wild, disconnected. I whispered, barely breathing. "I never wanted him." Suddenly the pounding stopped. Silence filled the hallway, sharp, cold, dangerous. I held my breath, listening. Then, footsteps. Slow, moving away from my door. "Okay," Adrian said carefully. "Stay inside until I get there." But a second later, a loud crash sounded from outside, a scream, a scuffle. I yelped and dropped my phone. I rushed to the peephole and saw Harper struggling violently as Adrian held her wrists, keeping her from hitting him. She screamed like a wounded animal, yelling my name, yelling Lucas's name, yelling things that made no sense. Adrian shouted, "Elizabeth, call 911, now!" My hands shook as I dialed. While the sirens began in the distance, I realized something heartbreaking and terrifying at the same time. This wasn't just betrayal. This was someone completely losing control of reality. The police took Harper away, screaming, kicking, crying, all at once. She kept shouting that I ruined everything, that Lucas was meant for her, and that I stole her life. None of it made sense, but the obsession in her eyes chilled me. An officer stayed back to take my statement. Adrian stood beside me the whole time, arms crossed, jaw tight. After they left, the apartment felt too quiet. My legs suddenly felt weak, and I sat on the couch, burying my face in my hands. "I can't believe this is my life," I whispered. Adrian sat across from me, voice low. "This wasn't your fault. People like her, they make their own storms." A tear slid down my cheek. "But I got caught in it." He nodded. "And you survived it." I swallowed hard. What happens now? She'll be held for evaluation, he explained. She needs help. This goes beyond jealousy. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling, letting the truth settle. This nightmare wasn't about me. It wasn't even about Lucas. It was about Harper fighting demons I could never see. Even so, the fear lingered. My voice shook as I whispered, "I just want my life back." Adrian answered softly, "You will, starting now." 2 days later, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. A tired, gentle voice spoke when I answered. "Hi, is this Elizabeth? This is Harper's sister." I stiffened. "Yes, is everything okay?" She sighed. "She's in a psychiatric facility now. They say she had a breakdown. She's been unstable for a long time, but this was the worst." I didn't know what to say. After everything Harper did, I expected to feel anger, but instead I felt something softer. Exhaustion, sadness, distance. Her sister continued. "I want to apologize for everything she put you through. It wasn't personal. She needed help years ago." My voice trembled. "I'm sorry she struggled so much." There was a pause. "Lucas told her you were the reason their relationship ended. He fed her jealousy. He fed her fears. He used both of you." I felt my chest tighten. So he wasn't just careless. He was cruel. Her sister whispered, "Harper didn't fall apart because of you. She fell apart because he manipulated her for too long." I closed my eyes. 7 months of heartbreak suddenly made too much sense. When the call ended, I sat in silence, letting the truth settle. Lucas wasn't just a cheater. He was the spark that lit the fire in both our lives. That night, I reopened my journal, the same one that held my rules. My hand hovered over the page as I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, the chaos, and the survival. Slowly I wrote, Rule number 7. When someone tries to play me, I become the rules they can't break. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. I whispered, "I'm done being someone's game." The next morning, I blocked Lucas everywhere permanently. Not from hurt, but from clarity. I unfollowed every reminder of him. I deleted the old photos. I threw out the gifts he gave me. It didn't feel like losing memories. It felt like reclaiming space. When I went to the gym, Caleb spotted me and smiled. "You look lighter," he said. "I am," I replied. And I meant it. He nodded proudly. "You walked through fire and didn't burn." I laughed softly. "Maybe I just learned to stop walking toward flames." Caleb didn't flirt. He didn't push. He simply said, "I'm glad you're okay, Elizabeth. You deserve peace." And for the first time I believed it. Weeks passed, and my life slowly settled. No more threats, no more fear, no more chaos. I moved to a new apartment across town, smaller but brighter, with sunlight that felt like hope every morning. I returned to my routines. I took long walks, I cooked again, I laughed again. And sometimes at the gym, Caleb and I would talk after workouts, slowly, gently, like two people learning each other's shadows and light. But this story wasn't a love story. It was a survival story, a rebuilding story, a story of choosing myself. One evening, standing at my new window, watching the city lights breathe, I opened my journal one last time and wrote, "Final rule, I am no longer someone's game. I am my own victory." As I closed the journal, a warmth swept through my chest. Not the fire of pain, but the glow of becoming someone I never thought I could be. Lucas didn't break me. Harper didn't define me. Their chaos didn't swallow me. Instead, I learned. I grew. I evolved. I whispered into the quiet night, "This chapter of my life ends here." And for the first time in a long time, I finally felt free.